Welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be part one of a two-part video. And in this one, what we're going to do is focus on the drafting part, and in the second video, what we're going to do is focus on doing the isometrics. So if that's something that you want to do is the isometric, look at the part two video, but in this one, we're going to cover just the drafting portion of it. So the drawing will not look like this one until the conclusion of the second part video. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and talk about this one for a little bit, break it down, and I'll show you some of the things about it, and then we'll get over or switch over to AutoCAD and start drafting this. All right, so when you first start looking at this video or this part here, some of the things that you're going to notice, and we can kind of see that in isometric view here, is that we have a lot of hidden surfaces. So in a lot of these videos, especially when we create them in 2D, we're going to have options to either put those hidden lines there or not. And a lot of time we do that for clarity. And I'll demonstrate that or show you some of the stuff that we have. So you can see here that there actually should be some hidden lines going here, going across to here, right? And the reason why those would be there is because these circles here, and if we look at them here, that hidden surface extends all the way to the edge over there, right? But we usually stop short at the vanishing line, and we can conclude that most people will understand that that hidden surface will go entirely across that part. And that's what you're seeing here. So when we get to doing the AutoCAD video, I can either choose to leave that off if it's going to make it a lot more confusing, or we can add it. So you can see I'm giving you both of the variations in this example here of which ones you can do and which ones you cannot do. You also see, and let me go ahead and change the color of my highlighter here, is that there is a line that is sitting here. Here's another one of those things that you can either include or not include. And to further explain that, you can also look here along the top. So you can see that I have two lines going here. And what those two lines are representing to you are the fillet. All right. So sometimes in videos, whenever you're creating them, you're not really doing that little edge here. We don't really care about that. And let's go ahead and give you a pin to see exactly what I'm showing you here. Is that this line here and then this line here. These are strictly optional. If you're using a 3D program like Inventor or SolidWorks or things of that nature, those may be called smooth edges or something along that line. And you can also show it going across here. But a lot of time those smooth edges, we do leave off of these drawings because it will truly overcomplicate the drawing or kind of give you a whole lot of extra lines on there that would make it confusing. Okay, so that's really most of the stuff that I wanted to explain to you, is that you have the option to put those on there or take them off just for clarity's sake. I like to leave them off. So when we get to doing the AutoCAD, I'll try to remember to bring this up again when we're actually doing the drafting portion, is that are we going to leave those off or are we going to continue to put those on? Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to AutoCAD, and then we'll start drafting this portion. Now remember that we will not be doing the isometric in this video. We will save that for another video. All right, so here in AutoCAD, let's go ahead and do some of the normal stuff that we like to do. I usually turn off the grid since there's no need for me to draw with that on. I'll go ahead and take a look and turn my ortho on. And I usually like to start with my ortho on just because I can create my straight lines really quickly. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at the running O snaps that I do have turned on. And these are going to be the ones that I'm going to use. I would also recommend that you maybe even put perpendicular on. A lot of these, and it's really not a good thing to check them all if I haven't mentioned this to you in a while. Because if you do check them all, everything has, it'll be so many O snaps on each object that you won't be able to successfully pick the object that you want. Okay, so you can kind of eliminate that, and here's one of those little tricks that you can use. You can use the tab button to cycle through these, or if you don't like doing it that way, you can also just kind of control it with typing in the first three letters of the O snap that you want to use, and you're going to see me do that in this video. Also, I'm going to kind of go with this one with a little bit more of your advanced steps. So I won't be necessarily clicking on the toolbar a lot. I'm just going to go through and kind of get through these, really through the advanced steps, right? All right, so here we go. Let's start off with the circle command, right? So we're just going to go ahead and with a circle. I'll click here. And then I'm going to type in whatever the radius is, but I have a diameter. So I'll just go to D for diameter. And then I'll put in the diameter I have here, which is going to be 30. All right, let's go ahead and zoom out. Let's go ahead and put the next circle in here. So C, enter. Let's go right back to here. We'll go ahead and type D for diameter, and then we'll type in 60. All right, so now we have our first two circles here. I'm just going to go ahead and select both of these, and I'll use the copy command, right? So we're going to copy. Remember, pick a base point. I'm going to aim this direction here. I'll type in 100, enter, and then 200, enter, right? Let's go ahead and escape from here. And then we're going to go ahead and select these circles here. I'll use the move command this time. Pick a base point here, go up a distance of 100. All right, so now I have an option to do kind of a few different things here. We can draw those lines from tangent to tangent to tangent, or what I'm going to do is create a polyline, and I'll go from this center to this one, back to here, and then I'll go see to close, right? All right, remember with a polyline, this is all at one. Let's go ahead and offset. So let's go and use the offset command. For the distance, what I'm going to do is select that endpoint to that quadrant. All right, I can either type that number in, I can type in 30 as well, but it's easier for me to go ahead and select that. I'll go ahead and select here, and then go to the outside here. Let's go ahead and escape, and then we'll delete here, and then we'll go ahead and trim off some of these extra lines here going across. Okay. All right, so we created that part relatively quickly. Let's go ahead and draw a line now from this midpoint. And we're going to go straight up a distance of, and let's see how long that is, should be 70. All right, and now we know that the overall width of this is going to be, we have a radius of 20. So that means that it's going 20 that direction and 20 this direction. So it's a lot easier to copy this line. Select it here, pick a base point here. I'll go this direction, type in 20, and then I'll come this direction and type in 20. For the circle that's on the inside of here, it has a diameter of 30, which means the radius is 15. So I'll go back to the copy command, and I could have did this all in one shot, but I'll go here, pick a base point, then I'll go 15 this direction, and then 15 this direction. All right, we're going to go ahead and cap this off with a line going straight across here. And now at this point, you can see that this is indeed what I need it to be. Let's go ahead and get rid of this line here. The extra line that I was talking about there in the intro was the smooth edges or tangential edges, or, you know, many programs have different names for them. We can choose to either have those on or off. Right now, I'm going to leave them off, and I'll explain it to you a little bit more when we get to actually drawing that portion. All right, now we're ready to start dealing with the bottom part here. So I'm just going to start with the line command, and I'm just going to find the quadrant here. Do not click on it, just touch it, track down here. That looks like it's farther enough away. I'll come this direction here. Just going to touch, come down, and click. All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and place these two lines that are going here. So I'm just going to select that line there, copy. Pick a base point. I'm going to go up a distance of 20 and then a distance of 30. All right, let's go ahead and put a into here. So I'm just going to draw a line going here and one more line going to here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in a construction line. Remember, the shortcut for that is going to be XL. Make sure you tell it it's vertical. I'll go from this quadrant to this quadrant. And I also have it going between these two quadrants. All right. Now here's one of those neat features about AutoCAD. If I zoom in enough to where I don't have that other line showing, it will trim all of these lines, even the part that extends beyond that. So this is one of those things that you'll see me do a lot, is just zoom all the way in. And then that way I can get the trimming off the portions that I need, right? So you can see this is how this is going to look. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more trimming here. We know that that piece is going to go here. This will go here. And we can go ahead and get rid of these two. All right. Now we're going to have another piece in front of here, and we can go ahead and start constructing that. The overall distance from the bottom here, so let's go ahead and just start a line from here, going straight up, a distance of 49.8. I'm going to draw a circle from this center, and it's going to have a radius of 20. Then we're going to come back with another circle here. Go D for diameter. It has a diameter of 30. All right. Let's go ahead and select this line here. And I'm going to use grips this time. So you can see that I selected that blue grip at the top. I'll hit the space bar one time. And then I'll choose the copy function here. I'll go to that quadrant and then that quadrant. Go ahead and hit escape. Let's use the fillet command. You know what? Let me trim before I do that because it won't let me do it. So I'm just going to go to trim. I'm going to get rid of these two lines here. Okay. All right. So at this point, I can go ahead and do my fillet. So I'm just going to go to fillet, radius, 5. And then we're going to go ahead and put our fillets here. And I just hit the enter button again just to make me go back to the last command here. All right. Let's go ahead and do some trimming here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off these portions that are running around here. Okay. Now I'll trim this piece out here in a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to worry about the vanishing edges that are on these lines here. So next, let's go back to the construction line, vertical. We're going to go from that end point. And these happen to be that midpoint on here. But you'll see that when I go to make the right side view here, that this vanishing point will come into play a little bit more. Let's go back to the trim command, and we're just going to trim off these portions here. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and make a layer because I want to start putting some of these on the hidden layer just to kind of help me out and so I won't have lines going everywhere. All right, so I'll just go to the layer. Let's go ahead and click on new. Let's call it a hidden layer. Let's change the color, make it red. So that's going to be color number 1. The line type, change it from continuous, go to load. We're going to go and find the hidden one. Let's choose hidden 2. Select it here and then go to OK. Now I'm going to go back and select the 0 layer because I want this the one to be the copy off of it. And then we're going to go to create a new one. And since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and create a center layer. I know I'll need it here eventually. But I'm just going to go ahead and make this a magenta color. Not magenta, cyan. And then I'm going to go ahead and find what that one is. So let's go and load that one as well since I'm creating a couple of layers here. Once again, I'm going to use the 0.5x variance of this. All right, and then make sure you select it here. And then you can see now that that layer is created and it should be on the right line type. Okay, I'll go ahead and close this now. Let's zoom into this top one. We know that this is a hidden line, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it on that one. Don't worry about the gaps showing up right now. I really need this for the color of it. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and trim off this portion here. And then I'm going to come back and draw a line going across here. All right. Now what I'm creating with that is that's going to be this hidden surface here. I can use the match properties. Remember, when you use that, you're going to select the source object first, and then select the one that you want to copy it. Now you can do that with multiple lines if you want to change them. Okay. So now we're at that point to where we were deciding on if we want to put these lines here or we want to leave them off. This is going to be one of those things that's kind of totally up to you. And I can also draw a line that goes across here. And you're going to see that once I clean this up, or towards the end here, you're going to see that a lot of these lines can get a little messy or sloppy if you have a bunch of lines going on. But leaving them off It's probably or more or less your best option. But I think this covers all the hidden surfaces that are on here. Let's go ahead and put the vertical ones here. So let's go to construction line, vertical. We're going to go through these quadrants. We got these quadrants here along the top, and we're going to have them here on the side. All right, once again, I try to make sure that other view is out of place here. And then when I go to trim, it should just only be trimming right across here and then here. Now inside of here, I would like this to just kind of stop here. So I'm just going to trim here. Okay, let's escape. Go back to the match properties option. Go ahead and select here. And then I'll just select all the way across here. Okay, so that really knocks out of all of our hidden surfaces that you see through here. This might be a little bit confusing, but I think you can kind of follow along now. All right, next I want to create the right side view, and I'm going to use a miter line to do that. Remember that the miter line has to be from the farthest, depending on which side you're going, but it needs to be from the farthest right side and the top part of this. So I'm going to go to a construction line, which is XL, enter. Then I'm going to tell it that I want to use an angle this time. I'll give the angle 45. I'm going to come and I'm just going to touch that midpoint. And then I'm going to come here and touch this. And once I track it up, I'll do a left click here. And that's where my miter line will be created at, right? Okay. So now I want to go ahead and set my distance, right? So I know that the distance here along this side is going to be at the bottom of that edge and at the bottom of this one. So let's go to X line, horizontal. I'm going to select that endpoint to that quadrant, escape out of that, back to the X line, make it vertical. And then you're going to see when I come here and here, that will give me my distance that I need. So if I draw a line going straight across here, and then let's just go ahead and trim these off. That is the distance of my overall shape here, right? Okay, just kind of working on this a little bit further. I'm just going to go to the copy command. I'm going to select this base point. I'll go up a distance of 20 and then 30, kind of just like we did before. Let's go ahead and get rid of these two lines. And then I'm going to use a couple of more miter lines here. Let's go ahead and trim this off since we're here. Let's go ahead and trim off these portions here. Okay. And now we need to figure out where the fronts or the top portions of these circles are, right? So let's go back to the construction line, make it horizontal. Next, I'll choose that quadrant. And then this quadrant. Let's escape out of here. Go back to that command. This time use vertical lines. And now you're going to see that I should be able to create those other lines that I need to go across, right? Okay. So this is the portion that we have right now, right? So, well, let's go ahead and trim off just a little bit more because we know that those won't be seen either. All right, so the next thing I need to do is figure out where the vanishing line is, right? Let's go ahead and erase here. Remember that vanishing line is really showing up on this line here. So let's go back to a construction line. Let's make it horizontal. I'm going to go from that endpoint to that endpoint. Let's escape out of that. Go back to the construction line, go to vertical, and then we'll go from here to here. Okay, let's go ahead and trim. And we just need to trim off these portions here. All right, so there's that vanishing line that goes across. Real nice and simple for us. Now, I can either choose to use the miter line up there to go ahead and set my distances for my circles on the inside, or let's go ahead and cheat a little bit here. Let's go ahead and select both of these. Let's copy those from that midpoint. And we're just going to place it on that midpoint and on that midpoint. Okay, now we can go ahead and do this again by placing that line going straight across here. And remember, we go back to our match properties. We can go ahead and make that. Okay, this can be a little bit more confusing, and we do have one on the back side here if you want to go ahead and place that there, but I think I'm going to wind up erasing those off anyway. But I'm just showing you that, yeah, they do exist in certain places. Okay, but I will get rid of them on my drawing here. All right, next we need to go ahead and start working on the top portion of this, right? Okay, so I'll start off with an X line. Let's go ahead and make it horizontal. I'll go from that midpoint, that quadrant, and that quadrant. Looks good to me. Let's go ahead and extend this line up. So I'll just use the extend command. And we're going to kind of walk it up to here. Let's go ahead and select it here. Let's do a copy from here going this way forward, a distance of 70. Then we're going to go ahead and trim off the extra portions here. And now you're going to see what I mean. You see how this line is actually showing? So if I trim this off, it's going to leave that gap that's showing. But if I just zoom in to where you don't see that, and I do the trim, it takes it all away. All right, that's one of those kind of neat little shortcut things there. I forgot to trim off this portion here. Then we're going to go back to our match properties. We know the inside of this is going to be those hidden lines there. Okay, so now you can see that the drafting portion of this is actually done, right? We got our miter lines, we got all of our center lines, we got all of our holes, but now I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of clear up some of this, right? So what I usually like to do is get rid of a lot of these extra surface lines that are showing up here, especially here in the front as well. I do kind of keep that one there. That one is not too confusing. As far as putting the extra lines here, I'll go ahead and show them to you. So if I do an X line vertical, and I just go just from the edges here, that will indeed create these lines that I was talking about before. But you can choose to either have those lines on there or not. I think it looks so much better without them, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those lines. There's no need for them. Okay, so now we have basically our drafting done. I cannot set my center lines until I actually get a title block on here. So let's go ahead and create a title block really quick here. So we're going to start with a rectangle command. We're going to start at 0, 0, and we're going to make this thing 11, 8.5. All right. Let's go ahead and zoom into this. Let's go ahead and do an offset 0.25. We're going to offset this down to the inside. I'm just going to go ahead and make this into a block by hitting the create button here. Just going to call it TB for title block. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 0, 0. Everything is fine. Convert it to a block. Yes. Scale uniformly. I'm going to go ahead and check this, and I will allow exploring. By me checking this box, it just lets me only have to change one number as opposed to 2 numbers or 3 numbers. I can't quite remember which one it was. All right. So now we're at the portion of the video where we need to figure out what's an appropriate scale factor, right? And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my calculator here, just so we can go ahead and figure out what exactly is the right distance that we need to have this, right? Okay, so if we go ahead and look here into the fly up, and we could see some of these numbers. Some of these are super easy to figure out. Like for example, if I go a 1/2 equals a foot, I already know that that's a 24. So we can kind of start off by playing with some of these and see if it's big or small. Let's go ahead and bring up the properties window. Let's do a right click after selecting that and go to properties. And then if I make this number 24, and you can see those other 2 numbers are grayed out because I told it to scale together, you can see that 24 will not fit, right? So all of this will not fit into that. Let's go ahead and double that and see if a 48 will work, right? So let me go ahead and see if I can drag and kind of move some of this stuff around and make it fit in there successfully. Okay, so 48 does work. I will say that it does work, but I do like a little bit more room around, just so when I put my dimensions in here, and you'll see that I am moving things together, just so I keep everything correct. And another thing I hope that you're noticing is that I am keeping my title block at 0, 0. That's always one of those best practices, especially when you put a title block in model space. All right, so you can see that yes, this does fit. Everything fits in here. This is perfect. But when I go to put dimensions on this, it's going to be a little bit tighter than I really do want it to be, right? So you've seen that we started here. We went to this size. The next size up is this 3/16 divided by, 3/16 is equal to a foot, right? What is the scale factor of that? Okay. So the way that we calculate that scale factor is that we're going to take the numerator of the 3/16. So we're going to have that number. We're going to multiply it times 12 because, 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. And then we're going to divide it by whatever that numerator was, which was 3. Therefore, the scale factor there is going to be 64. All right. So what I'm going to do is select my title block here. And I'm going to go ahead and change this number to 64. And that should give me just a little bit more room around everything that I need, right? So now we got our right scale that we need. And we got a little bit more room around my drawing that I will need. It's always not a good idea to cram up everything on one drawing. If you can give yourself more room, by all means, give yourself that much more room. Let's go ahead and move this all up, just in case if I have to put something on the bottom. Okay. So there's our drawing here. And now we know our scale factor. Let me go ahead and come over to here and set it. So it's going to be the 3/16 equals a foot. Now that's actually set for us. Go ahead and close this. And I'm going to do a regen all. And then we should be getting our hidden lines show up. Okay. Next thing I need to do is go ahead and set up my center extension, right? EXE. That has an extension on it, and I like to use, especially if I'm using kind of these metric numbers here of 3. All right, let's jump over, and then we're going to also do the center layer. And then we're going to tell that to use the center layer, right? All right. And now I should be able to jump over to the Annotate tab. And now we have our center lines. And I'm just going to go ahead and click here to here. And we're just going to keep going. I'm just hitting the enter button or the space bar on my command line after I select these 2 lines. This one I'm going to wind up getting rid of. And I'm just kind of walking through these. Because what I like to see is that line that's going in between here. That's really a good practice to do, especially when you're creating 3-dimensional drawings. Or, I'm sorry, not 3-dimensional drawings, 2-dimensional drawings. Because those will look like lines when you print them out and everything is all nice and black and you can't see those center lines. All right, let's go ahead and put my center marks on here as well. Okay. And let's go ahead and put this one on to here. All right, as far as this goes, I'm just going to select this one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the properties of it. And I usually like to work with just one line first because all of the rest of these are going to be the same. And what I look at in here is going to the line type scale. Let's go ahead and make this just a hair bigger so you can actually see what I'm actually talking about. Okay, so here's the line type scale. I'm going to go here and I'm going to make this number smaller. What I usually like to do is start off with 0.75. That line did not change. So there you go. I'll go down a little bit more, 0.625. I still don't see anything there. And then when I go to 0.5, you see that I do have a gap opening there. That looks perfect for me. Let's go ahead and close this. Let's escape out. We're going to go back and use the match properties. I'm going to select here. And then this one, I can go ahead and select it now and see if I like that. Or I can kind of play with that one, the actual center line there, or the cross line there. And what I mean by that is on this one, let's escape out of here, I can leave that there, or I can kind of play with this a little bit, grab here and place it here, and it kind of looks that way. All right, so but that's going to be kind of up to you. I like it the way it looked before, so therefore I'll bring it back. And there's all of our center lines and our center marks and things of that nature. Okay, so we drew everything. It's all good. Let's go ahead and start setting up our dimensions. I'm just going to go to D, enter. And I'm trying to remember, did I set up a dimension layer yet? Let's go ahead and cancel this real quick. I don't think I did. Let's go back to here. And no, I didn't. So I'm going to start here on the 0 layer. I'll create a new one. Let's go ahead and call it dimension. And then this one just needs to be another color. Let's go with a green, looks fine today. Let's go ahead and close this. All right. Now we'll go to D, enter. We are using the annotation scale here at the bottom, so I'm just going to double click here, and that's going to make it the current one, so that's important. Now we're able to hit the modify button. Then we're going to always start at the far tab, right? This one I am going to put the alternate units on it, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to tell it to display the alternate units, and I'm going to kind of jump around on this one. I want this one to be below it, so I'm already take care that I want it below it. And then here is the scale factor, right? So if we're going from millimeters to inches, this is actually correct, right? Our drawing is set to in millimeters, but we want it to display in inches. Oh, I'm sorry. I got it backwards. If we're going from inches to millimeters, this numbers is correct. If we're going from millimeters to inches, I need to kind of get the reciprocal of this number, right? Fancy word for flipping it upside down. What we're going to do is we're going to tell it to go 10 divided by 254, right? 254. And if we do it that way, once I hit the enter button on that, it will calculate it, and then it's going to take everything down to inches. So this is the way you would do it in reverse. All right. How many decimal places we want? 2 should be fine. And do we want to, we're not going to have any angles on this one, but do we want to trail the zeros and things of that nature? And that's what this is telling me here. Do I want those trailing zeros to come? I think in this case, let's go ahead and suppress the trailing zeros. All right, now we're ready to go to the primary units. All right, all our primary units are going to be whole numbers, right? So the good news for that is that we have a trailing zero suppression. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As I'm looking around in here, I don't think that there's anything else I have to change. Next, we're going to go to the Fit tab. And underneath here, I think everything here should be fine as well because we're set to annotative. So therefore, we're not controlling anything for as a scale factor. It's done by this at the bottom. Let's go ahead and take a look at the text. All right, so now our text height, do we want to leave it this big? Let's go ahead and make it 0.125 just to make it a little bit smaller. And since I made it smaller, you can see that gap in between here. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller, and that gap is controlled by this number here. So let me see what 0.106 looks like. Okay, so let's try a little smaller number here. Let's say 0.03. And you can see that these are moving a little bit closer as I keep decreasing this number. And you can see a 0.01 is almost exactly touching it. So I think I'm going to leave it at a 0.03. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the symbols and arrows. And underneath this tab, since we already have our center marks on, I usually set this to none. And everything else I pretty much leave the same here at the lines. But you can adjust the line extensions or the gap between it. Let's go ahead and hit OK on this. And then close. All right, let's switch back to the Annotate tab, and what I want you to do next is go ahead and select here in the drop down and set this to dimension. And the reason I'm doing this is so I don't have to switch my dimensions back and forth when I'm trying to create them. All right, let's start seeing how some of these dimensions are going to look. So let's do a linear from that endpoint to this endpoint. And you can see that that does come up with the correct number, and it also has the inch equivalent to it at the bottom. All right, I'm just going to hit the enter button here and go ahead and place these dimensions on. So this should be, pretty much simple to you on how to create dimensions and place them on a drawing. It's really nothing, I guess, special about it. Other than I like to use shortcuts sometimes, so instead of me going up here and looking underneath the drop downs, it's a lot easier for me to type in DDI, right? And that just stands for diameter. So it's the D and then the first two letters of the dimension that you're trying to create. So that's for the diameter, so I can select here. If I wanted to do the radius one, it'll just be DRA, but I'm going to put another diameter here at the top since this is a completed circle around. All right, let's come down to here. I'm just going to hit the enter button. I'm still doing a diameter here. And then I'll do a radius here. So that's going to be my DRA. All right, I have another radius that's going to be sitting here. So I'll go DRA again, and I'll click it here. And now you're going to see that sometimes it'll give us this extension, and it depends on how you want this to look. So if I roll this around and kind of keep it to the inside, it will do away with the extension, but the minute I get long on the outside here, it's going to place it back. So I'm just going to leave it on there, and then I'll show you how to get rid of that. Okay, let's go ahead and put one more dimension on here, and then I'll show you how to get rid of that extension there. So I'm just going to put a dimension from there to there. Okay. To get rid of that extension, I'm just going to go ahead and select here. I'll do a right click. Let's go ahead and open up that properties window again. Let's kind of pan this to the side here. And then what I'm looking for is the extension line, right? So we're looking for the EXT line here. I'll go ahead and select that in the drop down and turn that off, and you're going to see that that dimension will snap to the bottom of it. Okay. Let's go ahead and place a dimension here. So DLI here. So from this endpoint over to this endpoint. Now, this is going to be a reference dimension, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and select this again, right? And then I'm going to go to the properties. And I just can't do like I normally do in other videos, and I'll show you the reason why here, is that a lot of times here underneath the, let's see, primary units here, I can have prefixes and suffixes. That's not the one I'm looking for. Underneath the text overwrite, if you didn't have the alternate dimensions, you'll be able to get away with just typing in open parentheses, less than, greater than, and close parentheses, and that just tells you to put one at the front and one at the back, right? And once I hit the enter, you're going to see it does do somewhat what I want, right? So you kind of got half of it there. Another way that you can take a look at this, and you can add more stuff to it, so you can see underneath my primary units, I can add a suffix, and it's just as simple as putting a close parentheses there, and that's going to finish it here. And then I got to go underneath the alternate units, and then I got to put a prefix of an open parentheses, right? And I put an open, there you go. And you can see that I do a bracket or parentheses, but you can see the problem there is that it will put it in front of it, right? So that's kind of not what we want. And you can see on the back end how it looks on that one, right? So that's kind of not what we want to do. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So we don't have that. I will keep this one here because I do want that one there, but I'm going to come back up here to the text overwrite, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And what I like to do is just go ahead and put in my prefixes and suffixes how I want my dimensions to look, right? So underneath there, and then I'll go to the alternate units, and then I'll go here, and one more here. Okay. So now everything looks consistent. Let's go ahead and close this, and then I'm going to go ahead and place my other dimensions along here on the other side. So let's go back to our DLI. I'll go from this endpoint all the way to here. Now this is going to be a reference dimension. And hopefully you're able to see that because that distance is actually located from here to here. And then what you're going to do is add the radius, and that should give you your 160. Let's go ahead and finish placing our dimensions on here. We're going to have another dimension from here to here, which is going to be a reference dimension as well, because we do have the height of that. All we got to do is take this number here and add whatever the radius is onto that. So that 20 plus that number should give me that number. So that's why that's going to be a radius. And then we have a couple of more dimensions to place here. So I'm going to place from here, and remember that the last endpoint that you click on, that's going to be the side that your dimension will appear on. So if I go back to the linear and I place from here going down, it should send that dimension going down as I'm coming this direction, in which it does. Okay. All right. So for my reference dimensions here, instead of doing all of that again, you can simply use the match properties. If I go and select this one first, now I should be able to select here and here. So you don't have to redo all that. Just take your time and do one of them correctly, and then everything else will be correct, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know it's a kind of lengthy one, but I wanted to go into a lot of depth, at least showing you how you can dimension and set up certain things. And hopefully you kind of understand if you want to put those tangential or smooth edges in there, you can, but in some cases it's a lot easier to leave them off. And as I'm talking, I'm looking at that one there. You can see that it gives a lot more clarity to the overall drawing. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for, tuning in. And as always, keep drafting, and I will definitely see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.